Jalisco es una iniciativa liderada por el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, el Tecnológico de Monterrey en Guadalajara, el Gobierno de Jalisco y C-Minds. FERLAC Jalisco trabaja a través de la articulación de academia, sociedad civil, sector público y sector privado en 3 componentes. 1. Es la implementación de soluciones tecnológicas mediante técnicas de inteligencia artificial para resolver problemáticas sociales en Jalisco. Otro es la recomendación en creación de política pública para el uso de inteligencia artificial, así como el impulso del uso ético y responsable de esta. Y el tercer componente es el fortalecimiento del ecosistema emprendedor local de inteligencia artificial responsable. FERLAC Jalisco forma parte de uno de los hubs de FERLAC que tienen presencia en Medellín, Colombia, Costa Rica y Uruguay. En Jalisco se cuenta con un diferenciador único, el componente de emprendimiento que busca fortalecer al ecosistema emprendedor en IA a través de actividades como el programa de aceleración de startups de IA PASIA, IA Talks, talleres de integración de inteligencia artificial responsable y de Venture Capital, hackatones y el análisis del ecosistema jalisciense de emprendimiento en inteligencia artificial. FERLAC, por un uso ético y responsable de la inteligencia artificial.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Hi, my name is Michael. I'm very happy to be here and share a bit about my journey and how it all started basically in Mexico, but I will talk about that later. And yeah, I'm very glad to be here. I want to start with a little introduction into myself, which gives you a better idea of from what perspective and background I'm coming. So I did a bachelor in business administration in Germany. I'm also from Germany originally, and then I did a master's in innovation and technology management. And I worked quite a bit in different industries. I worked for automotive companies in Germany. I worked in consultancy, and I worked in innovation management. And then when I was doing my master thesis on chatbots, so you might know the conversational AI assistants, chatbots, I was writing a thesis about it, and I was in Japan. And it's actually an interesting story because it connects to Mexico, because when I was in Japan, I went to a temple to think a little bit about my career choices. And when I went to this temple, I met a monk, and this was actually a Mexican monk who came from Mexico City, and he decided to go into this temple. And we spent 4 or 5 days basically talking, doing meditations and reflecting on life. And I kind of made the decision to follow my own projects and my own ideas and follow my intuition. So I left the, let's say, very straightforward career path in Germany. I left it and I tried out my own kind of projects. And from, let's say, for 6 months, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was, connecting to a lot of people, talking to a lot of people, and was just trying to figure out what ideas stick. I was using LinkedIn quite a lot. I was connecting to people and just, bouncing ideas, exchanging thoughts. And and then I met somebody who had a similar mindset, who was interested in technology and also in meditation. And then there was a project that was done back then, and the guy who was leading the project, Luda Mitra, was basically doing this project in a way that it was community driven, and the project was about building an AI solution. And there were many people involved from remote areas in India who came together to build a solution. And it was a very tough, very difficult problem, but all the people involved, they connected with the problem and they wanted to solve it. And the results were great. And in the end, this was a great experience. And basically out of this idea of bringing people together who connect with the problem and build something for society, for the planet, this idea then turned into Ondena. And Ondena is then the company where I'm a founding member of. So 2 years ago, we founded this company. And the idea was, again, there are many problems. There are many people. How can we connect this, and how can we have people working together, collaborate, not compete against each other, but really working together to solve these problems? And especially in the, let's say, AI, data science industry, there is a lot of competition. There are a lot of also platforms which are competitive, which brings in a certain value. But we thought there's already enough competition in the world. We need to collaborate more. We need to work together. And yeah, and then Ondena has been started. And then I would say there was nothing, right? There was just an idea. There was just something in the mind. There was one project which worked out well. And then the question was, okay, how can you now turn that into a business? And we were just two people at this point. And it was actually my first, it's my first startup, right? It's my first own kind of like venture where I contribute to the growth, to shaping it. And it was basically darkness. So, and maybe some of you are also thinking about starting a business, or you already started a few, and you know this, right? There's this uncertainty. You don't know where you're going. But that's just part of it, right? And that's also quite exciting, I would say. I learned that is actually quite exciting to go out there and do something and see what grows out of it. So we started to work on Ondena, and yeah, we put all our, let's say, heart, all our time into building it. And we also joined a program in Mexico, in Chihuahua. And the experience was very, very beneficial, and it was very inspiring. It's called Orion Startups, and it was my first time in Chihuahua. And when we started, it was still an idea, and I was part then of a network of entrepreneurs in Mexico, and I learned a lot about the mentality and how yeah, people are thinking about building startups, and I will get into that a little bit later. But the program was a very very joyful, very happy environment that gave lots of good energy to move forward and to go through obstacles, and to just continue going. And that was the first, I would say, 4 months. First 4 months of building Ondena was part of this program. And what I can say is that I really learned that when you put your heart, when you put your effort into something, and you try out as much as you can, and you learn from it in a very open way, right? It's not about, I want to build this. It's more about having a vision and then being very, very open and listening to the feedback that you get. So what that means is that we did in the beginning, we did several projects. In our case, even we did projects. Some of them we did for free because we wanted to test the model. So we wanted to test if what we are doing works out. And we wanted to build the community around what Ondena stands for. And I will quickly share my screen to give you an idea of what Ondena is about and how it works. So I will share my screen now with you. So you see my screen here. And basically what has happened in the last 2 years is that we have been building a platform where people from around the world, so in this case, engineers, developers, data scientists, you can say, come together to build interesting solutions for impact-driven organizations. So we are working with startups, we are working with NGOs, we're working with impact organizations. And we have been gathering more than 1,800 engineers from 98 countries, and we have completed 56 projects and more than 400 hours of work have been going into this. And the way it works is that organizations, they put projects on our platform. So for example, you see here that there are different types of projects. For example, here is a project to recommend sustainable energy solutions. Or here's a project to improve natural disaster and water resource management. Or here's a project to prevent the financing of terrorism by using machine learning. So there are many projects that are coming up, and engineers, they can apply to join those projects. And then there is a group of 50 collaborators per project who then works together for 2 months and then builds the solution. And what that means is that an organization gets a solution by a very skilled set of people, and the engineers, the collaborators who are working on the project, they solve something meaningful, they can build a meaningful career. They also improve skills that are essential, right? Because in the end, the best learning really happens if you apply the theory, if you apply what you have been listening to, what you read about, what you saw, you apply it to the real world, and then you get a feedback. And that's what Ondena is about. So Ondena is a place where people collaborate, build interesting solutions, make an impact, learn, grow, and organizations get access to talent from around the world. And one of our first projects, let me see if I can even go back to completed projects. One of our first projects actually had many collaborators from Mexico, from Latin America, and it was about identifying trees for wildfires. And that was a very, very interesting project where a group of people, I think more than 60 people back then, were working together to detect trees and to prevent forest fires. And and this was a very, very interesting project, which gave us an idea, okay, the collaborative model really works. And that's it about Ondena, I would say. And now I can talk a bit more about the challenges and the learnings that I have and had along the journey. So what I would say is that one thing that is very, very important is that when you start something like that, to my understanding, you really need to make the decision to follow through with it. So there's no such thing as a shortcut or getting big results very quickly, especially if it's the first time or the second time, or it's a new market. If you're doing something for the first time, it takes time. When I can share that, basically the first year we worked 6-7 days a week, and we put lots of effort, and we always had goals. We set weekly and monthly goals, and then we were trying to reach those goals. And in the beginning, those goals might be very small, and there might be not that much progress, but this adds up when you look back then 6 months or a year, or even if you right now listening, if you think how you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, how much you have learned and how much you have broadened and opened up your perspective, then you certainly realize how much has happened. And the same happens for business. So in the beginning, it might feel slow, but in the end, if you move, if you continue, if you put in the effort, you will build something. You will learn a lot, and that's like a tip or something to be aware about that I can share, that I really realized. Then another thing is really to be open. So again, you don't have all the answers. I didn't have any answers, to be honest. I just knew I wanted to do that, and I wanted to put my effort in, and I met very smart people and people that connected with the idea and the effort, and that brought in lots of different, perspectives. It's not just that it's one person or two people doing that. It's an effort of a community. It's an effort of so many people coming from all around the world, who really make it possible. And you got to be really open for that. You got to be open for new ideas, new perspectives, and don't only see your own limited, which is limited, right? We only have our own surroundings that shape our mind and how we see things. But there's so much potential to open up your mind and to be more intelligent and to be more receptive for new things, and not blocking things away. So that's super important. And so you have to listen to your customers, to the leads that you generate, to the people that you talk to your users, right? It's super important to just listen to them from the beginning, and do not have already assumptions on your mind that are rigid, right? Not think already about the solution. You first have to understand the problem. You have to understand what the market is thinking, and in this way, the best way to do that is to just go out there and test it and talk to people, and then get the feedback. So that's really super important, and leaving the ego, right? The ego aside. That's not about you. It's about the business, the company, the community, the people, and moving forward, and and making a difference, if you want to call it this way, right? So that's healthy. Then another thing is, which connects to speaking the truth, right? So when you communicate with your team members, with maybe your co-founders, you gotta be truthful. So even if it feels uncomfortable, if there's a mistake that has been made, right, you have to be honest about that, and you have to be honest also in terms of giving feedback, and not hiding things and accumulating things from within, and then at a certain point it boils up, and then it just explodes. And in this way, you got to be honest, and tell the truth, right? So if it's easy, if it's about giving compliments, or giving let's say positive feedback, or if it's negative feedback, in the end there is no positive and negative feedback anyway. It's just feedback, and all feedback that is valid helps, and sharing how you think helps as well. So there will be things growing in the darkness, in the culture, in the company, in the team. Things will be growing, right? And then at a certain point, it's too late to change things. So if you don't speak the truth, people might not trust, and you can't trust yourself, maybe. And that's super toxic. I think that's one of the biggest, let's say, killers of teams, and of real progress. If you start hiding things. So Ondena has always been very transparent and very open in communication and in feedback, and in having set up goals and tracking those goals and seeing if you reach those goals, good. If you don't, okay, what's happening here? What's going wrong? Right? Like, really, what's going wrong? What can we do? What can we test? And we can talk about it openly, and we move forward as a team. So that's something that I think is essential. It's essential for everything, not just for work, but for life. Then, okay, now I talked a lot about some tips, but I would say, okay, what about enjoying and really enjoying the process? I think that's essential as well. So I decided to do something which I enjoy, which gives me also freedom, where I can express myself, and where I can do things that make something beyond just myself. So where there are other people also involved, and I think that is very important. So when you want to build something, what is really the why? Like, why am I doing it? Is it only because of, to be honest, if it's only, in my experience, about making money, that wouldn't be for me a very super big motivator. I think it's just one element of work and life. but people obviously think differently about these things. But yeah, it's really a question of why. Why am I doing that? And I can say freedom and enjoying what you're doing makes you also more productive. It makes you more creative, and yeah, it makes life a more meaningful endeavor. Yeah, and then what I use actually as a, let's say, as a tool is meditation. So connecting it back to my story before, where I met the Mexican monk in this temple. I incorporated meditation in my daily life. So I, took 30 minutes, 1 hour aside to just do nothing and sit there and, have an observing my thoughts, having a look at what's going on in the mind so that I see things more clearly, and checking in with my ego, right? If you get, if you bump into obstacles, if you make mistakes, these kind of things, right? The ego is can become very noisy. So just being still and looking at your thoughts will give you lots of clarity, and calm down, and yes, see things the way they really are, or at least closer to the way they are. And that made also the entire journey more joyful. And yeah, and I can just say I've learned so many things from people from around the world. And in the end, there's no such thing as self-made. One person doing all of these things. It's all a collaborative effort. We learning from each other, you listening right now, and maybe there's some idea that you get from what I'm saying, maybe not. Maybe there's an inspiration happening. And in my journey, so many people have inspired me, so many things that I've seen and read, and connecting this to the meditation and the stillness, where everything can connect, and where you can bring in this place where you have space, right? Where not there are thoughts coming up all the time and you are overwhelmed. No, just looking at it from a calm, from a peaceful state of mind. That has been essential to me. Yeah, and then I would say also another thing is trust in yourself and trust in your ability to figure out things. So that means that you don't have all the answers at this point, and nobody really has. I think entrepreneurship is kind of, you have an idea, and maybe okay, I want to go there, but the path towards this vision is dark, right? You don't know it. And then you have maybe incubator and accelerator programs, and you have universities which can help you a bit, right? They are like a flashlight, and you put the flashlight and it brings you a little bit of light, but the flashlight is not strong enough to show you the entire path. So you have to, continue walking. Maybe you bump into something, you get a little bit of scratch, but that's fine. It will heal, and you continue walking. And the more you do that, and the more open you do it, and the more you do it without the ego involved, but with really trying to understand how things are really, the faster you can go, and the more you can learn. And then in the end, there's no such thing as failure, right? There's just learning happening, there's just evolution happening, and there's just openness happening, which will help you, which will make the whole experience of work and life more deeper. It makes it more profound. So in this way, there's nothing that can really go wrong in most of the cases. And that's a question that you can also ask yourself. What is keeping me from moving forward? So that I can say, trust in yourself, trust in the journey, enjoy the journey, and don't fixate too much on the destination now. It's just what's happening right now, and that's the most important, and it has been always the most important, and will be always the most important. Okay, then another thing, what I would say is, I would say you have to take responsibility, and that connects to ownership, right? So often what can happen is that you maybe something goes wrong and you blame somebody else or something else. In the end, I always try to reflect on what is it that I can improve, and did I pay enough attention? Did I put in enough time? It's really about taking responsibility and being responsive, right, to everything that is happening around you, and really owning it. And if you do that, it brings you freedom, because in the end, when you always blame something or somebody else, this is something you don't have control of, right? But about yourself, to a certain degree, you have control of, right? You can make certain decisions to do certain things, which will, bring you to a specific outcome, let's say. So responsibility and not blaming is super important. Yeah, and I would say those are the most important things that I learned, that I experienced, and at this point, what I can also tell in terms of my role in the company, the role has evolved. So I started as being responsible for marketing and community building, but now I'm moving more towards the business development, for example. So I'm also quite flexible in terms of the role that I take in the company, because it's in the end about what makes the most sense, right? So right now we are focusing on growth. So we want to grow our number of projects per month, and we have been growing from basically 1 project a month to 4 to 6 projects, and then 6 to 8 projects per month. And now obviously we want to scale that up, and we always want to scale it up, because the scale, the growth mindset that you have, it will always, push you a little bit further and make things grow faster. And it's kind of like when you think about you aim for the stars, right? Let's say you aim for the stars. At least you might shoot the light bulb, but if you aim for the light bulb, you might not even hit the light bulb, right? So it's always to aim a little bit higher, which gives you like an upsurge of energy and move forward. So my role has been evolving in the last 2 years, and that's again about being flexible and open-minded. And it comes with a little bit of uncomfort sometimes, because you have to adjust. When you do something over and over again, you become good at it, you become comfortable in it. But now it's about growth. It's about, moving out of this zone to make progress and to continue building the community. So for me, again, it's about the meditation and letting go and focusing on what makes sense for the company, not just for yourself, but what makes sense for the company, and where can you bring in the most value. And that's what we are doing right now. So we are scaling up, and we are looking forward to many, many more projects. And that's really, I would say, the key in my journey in entrepreneurship. And it has been so far only 2 years. But what I can say is that I've learned the most compared to my previous work experience, where I was more in traditional jobs, where the path was more clear, the career goals were more clear, the hierarchy was more clear. It was not that dark, which for me meant that it's more comfortable, it's more predictable, but it's also more boring. While right now, in the last 2 years, I learned way more, and I learned essential skills. I learned way more about myself, and it's more exciting, because there's more darkness, but there are also more possibilities, right? It's not just one straight line. There are many possibilities, and that's very, very exciting. And there are many stories of people in the community that are very inspirational. And in the end, what I can say is that no matter what we are doing, it's always an effort of not just one person, but many. And that's why I'm very grateful that, I got the chance to share a little bit about my journey. And all the thoughts and all of these things that I shared is just an accumulation of experiences that I had with other people, that I had in Mexico, that I had in Latin America, and yeah, I'm happy to share that. And I hope that some of it resonates with you, and some of it does not resonate with you, and that's all fine. So thank you very much for the opportunity, for the time, and I wish all of you all the best in whatever you plan to do, and enjoy the process. Thank you very much.